Jamie, you have been teaching people to cook, how to make great recipes for quite some time. You've built up an amazing audience, being consistent in this space. And I think that there are so many people that have been interested in getting into cooking because of what you've done. And you've put out a book on all the different recipes you've created. And I'm excited to have you here and just talk about your
Thank
story.
you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm a huge fan of you and your podcast. So I'm very excited to get into Everything Delish.
Awesome. So Jamie, I want to just go back to what made you interested in this space. When did you get interested in cooking? Was it something you were doing when you were young? And how did it become a profession, a
So
career?
I have been doing Everything Delish for over 12 years. And it honestly started off as just a simple Instagram account. I was substitute teaching and I was doing my master's of education. And I had just graduated from McGill in Montreal, which has the most incredible food scene. And I feel like it really opened my eyes to just food, tourism, hospitality. And so I became that kind of person that people would always be like, where should I go eat? Where should I travel? And I was getting really annoyed at my friends. I was like, honestly, you know what? I'm going to start an Instagram account. I'm going to call it Everything Delish. And you can just look at all of my recommendations there. And there was no algorithm at the time. Instagram was a very photo focused app. And I had a few thousand followers, but I was always into video content. I'm a very visual person. I love storytelling. I love beginning to end. And so when I started posting my restaurant recommendations, I actually started doing like clips and starting off with that hero shot that we see, all in your feeds. And that quickly captivated a lot of people. And from there, like ended up going viral. But going viral 12 years ago versus now was like a completely different story.
So this is years and years of building up. Like, when did you start to experience some, points of wow, this could actually be something that, I can figure out how to monetize and I can, devote my full time to? Like, when did it become that within that, 10 plus year journey of yours?
So I have a very pivotal moment in my journey, and I'd like to give the entire, like, honestly, it's because of cheesecake on a stick. I'll never forget, like, it was
Mhm.
raining. I substitute taught all morning. I went to my night class, and then there was an event, and I was like, I need to get this cheesecake on a stick. It's going to be the next viral thing. And it was like this massive hunk of cheesecake on a stick dipped in milk chocolates, like smothered in Nutella. Like it was so gluttonous and decadent. It was outstanding. And I like posted it, not thinking anything of it. And I think I had like 10,000 followers at the time. And 9gag, which is part of Unilad, ended up picking it up and they reposted it. And they had 98 million followers at the time. And because
Wow.
there was no algorithm, like your content was being seen by the amount of followers that were online and that you had at that time. And so within 24 hours, I went from 10,000 followers to 80,000 followers. And then other
Wow.
publications started looking at me as a hub. And I've always kind of had that business sense of like, okay, how can I spin this, because at this point, I'd already been running Everything Delish for a year. I was still doing my master's, still teaching. And I was like, didn't feel like my heart was in teaching anymore. And I kind of felt like, okay, like maybe I can do something, but I don't really know. And what I would do is I would reach out to these publications, so like Food Network, Cosmo, BuzzFeed, and everyone needed content. Everyone wanted original content. And I'd be like, okay, you can use my content, but I'm going to have brands associated in the content. And I'd get brands to pay me. There's e-transfer, there's no contracts, and they would pay me a very small amount. And I would feature their products like, how we do now, but there's no hashtag ad, there's no FTC guidelines. And I'd be like, hey, BuzzFeed, here's a video of a pasta with cheese, and I'd have that hero shot and the product in the background and be Muir Glen roasted organic tomatoes in the background.
It's a good idea. And so you just kept pitching that to brands and just got more and more of them basically to do it and built up a business through
Exactly.
that.
And I would start to see kind of like the gaps in social media because it was so new and it was changing so rapidly, but also growing at such a substantially fast time. And so I could see that, like I mentioned before, brands needed original content. They wanted video content, and it was just pushing out as much content as possible. And because I was doing recipes, restaurants, like I had so much content, it was crazy. It was all I did. And then as I started growing the business and I started working with more brands, I was like, I think I have something here. And that's ultimately led me to doing Everything Delish full time.
Mhm. And when did it become full time? Like, how long did it take after you start? How
It
many years?
took 3 years. I noticed I was in like a year into my master's program. I was like, I got to fast pace this because I'm not teaching. And I made a goal to myself to finish my master's because I always dreamt of being a teacher. It was something that I aspired to be since I was a really young girl. And so to me, I kind of had that goal like, okay, I'm going to finish my master's and then like take it from there. And then it took a year of kind of, like that kind of like transition period of, am I doing it full time? Am I teaching? Like to kind of figure out what's going on. Like I mentioned, like at the beginning of kind of the explosion of social media, like there was no FTC guidelines, there's no contracts. It was really the Wild West. And it was really crazy. It was a lot of events, it was a lot of things. And I would say brands and restaurants and just agencies doing things to be that kind of like social media friendly moment, That's when we were seeing the peanut butter burgers like in a powdered sugar bun, And it was things that didn't make sense, but it was just for social media.
Did you find that like there were other creators doing similar stuff to you that like maybe they didn't stick with it long enough or they faded away because they just didn't make the jump to video content? Like, because it seemed like now video content defines these platforms. It's what you need to do.
Right. I always say, because people always ask me, like why did you stick out versus someone else? And honestly, I think from the get-go, social media was really saturated. I think as brands started
Mm,
activating and, these influencer events started coming to life, everyone really wanted to be part of
yeah.
it because it was something that we've never seen before. It was incredible. And from the beginning, I always knew that no one can replicate me, my personality, and my story. So I didn't want to be someone online that didn't have that personal connection with their community. Because I was a teacher, like I wanted to connect and inspire and help everyone. And so from the beginning, I chose to show myself. I didn't want to be someone that just had like nice fingernails, like breaking open a Nutella donut. And I really made an effort to lead with who I am and kind of what I'm going with, like going through my personal life. So when I joined TikTok many years later after starting Everything Delish full time, it was kind of a moment for me to reinvent myself. And I knew, because voiceover was new at this time, I was like, I am going to start doing a lot of storytelling. And that's kind of why I went viral. And it's really my messaging now with Everything Delish is that people come for the food, but they stay for the story. And I think that's why I have such a great connection with my audience, because they know everything about me and I'm doing it all over recipes and food.
So I did want to get into this. Like, how do you story tell? What are some of the techniques that you've used? I know you have like this teaching kind of background, and it's an area that you like a lot. But how do you tell stories effectively that make the videos get the kind of traction they have?
So, I mean, everything's about a hook. And I swear, my husband's always like, if I hear you say, I left my teaching career again, he's like, I can't hear that anymore. But it's like, people love it. Um, People want that moment. Like I gained 4 million followers. Like I gained 2 million followers in a year. I left my teaching career. I had people that didn't believe in me. And it's the truth, right? Like I want to inspire people to follow their passions and to do what they love, whether it's in their career, hobbies, cooking. Like I genuinely want to make everyone feel like I am this relatable, approachable person. And what I'm attaining, they can as well. And so for me with my voiceovers, I just talk about things that are going in my life. Like, am I anxious because of what's going on in the world? Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. Like, am I, a new mom dealing with postpartum, like talking about those struggles and really just sharing and being inspired by my own life's moments is what really helps me with these voiceovers. And honestly, it's some of my most viral content. I recently just posted a recipe video of they are hot, like a cilantro lime chicken and rice bowl. It's a really good recipe. And the voiceover is just talking about leaving my teaching career and reintroducing myself to my audience and being like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I talk about. I love food. I'm a new mom. I have anxiety. And I was a teacher. And now I've been doing this full time. And I gained over 150,000 followers from that video. I posted in the summer and like every day
Wow.
I'm getting more and more. And it's just really crazy because like I said, people come for the food, but they stay for that story.
Mhm. How important do you think it is to be kind of vulnerable like that? Like you can tell a great story, but like the vulnerability aspect of it, is that
I
essential?
think it's kind of depends like your comfort level and like what you're comfortable with sharing on social media. I think authenticity is
Mhm.
everything. So you can be vulnerable, and if you're being your authentic self, that is what's going to really reach that audience and it's going to inspire them or want to follow you. I always say that follow button is currency. If you say something you don't like, they're going to unfollow you so quickly. But if they like it, they're going to want to give in and support you. And so for me, I feel like our audiences and our communities, they really understand when we're not being transparent and we're not being authentic. And I think that the vulnerability aspect comes with authenticity. And so I think our audience, they know, like they're going to be like, okay, this is BS, or okay, I want to know more. I want to learn more about this creator.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it just builds a better relationship with you and the audience if they know more about you to an extent,
For sure.
obviously.
And I mean, listen, like I was at a wedding this weekend and someone came up to me and they're like, I saw your husband because I recognize him on social media. And like, I know like you did this X, Y, and Z. And I think that excites people, right? Like they want to feel like they have that first class ticket on your life and they know everything about you. And that's why they're following you, right? So you want to be as authentic and vulnerable in your comfort level as possible, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. What does the routine look like for you now, content wise? Like, what does a day look like? I mean, you're outputting a lot, you've got a lot, I'm sure, in the pipeline. How do you do it all?
So I am a very type A person, but I'm extremely disorganized. I call it like controlled
Mm.
chaos. That's just the way that I have functioned since I started Everything Delish. I am the worst planner. So as much as I know people that, recipe creators who plan their recipes on a Sunday and they order their groceries for the week, I have never, ever, ever been able to work that way. And I think that's why this honestly works. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I kind of have this craving today, or oh, it's snowing out. Let me go make this really cozy soup recipe. And honestly, my recipes are based off of what I'm craving, but also what my community wants to see. I definitely try and be like, okay, I'm going to film at least 1 to 2 days a week. There's a lot of admin that goes alongside with, being a content creator, especially when it comes to brand partnerships and working on just other partnerships that are offline. So it kind of every week is different, like there's such quick timelines, as I'm sure things that pop up, really tight turnarounds. And so honestly, every day is different. I wish I had a set schedule, but this is just how it works for me.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think that's why it works,
For sure. I've
because
had
it's
an
just,
assistant who told me I was really disorganized and it didn't work for her. And I was like, this is just how I am. Like I wish I could be more organized, but I think this is why it works because I think that I'm so in tune with social media and my community and what people want to see. I'm always in my DMs. I'm always responding to comments. Like I am the person filming, editing, writing back to you, responding. And so because I have that connection and I'm so in tune, like I am able to see what people want to see, if that makes sense. So I ask my community once a week on a Sunday, like, hey, what recipes do you want this week? And then from there, I'm able to kind of like gauge, okay, I'm getting 100 soup requests or a pasta or something like that, or a weeknight dinner, and then I'm able to tailor it from there. But yeah, I wish I was more organized, but sadly I'm not.
Mhm. How do you come up with these recipe approaches, ideas? I mean, maybe you take some stuff that's existing, but you've got a lot of originality as well. What goes into like figuring out how to put things together and actually make them taste good?
So a lot of trial and error, a lot of recipe testing. I will not post a
Mhm.
recipe if it doesn't work. So I'm always testing it beforehand and then making sure that it actually works and tastes good and that the cooking method is great before actually putting it out. I think with social media, it's really hard because it's so saturated and we're constantly being inspired by other people. So, you could see something 3 months ago and it could stick in your brain and I could wake up that morning and be like, oh, why do I want to make like a crispy beef taco? Did I see that before or am I craving it? Um, but it's really hard to kind of, stand out in a very saturated space. But everything I try and do is being approachable and relatable. So with my recipes, I don't have time to go proof a dough for 2 days. I'm extremely impatient. So I'm gonna come up with the quick method to get you to that in like 2 hours or less. Even so, even a lot of my recipes for weeknight dinners, like I don't have time to make a 2 hour dinner. Okay, like how is this gonna come together in 30 minutes with pantry staples and minimal ingredients? And that's really kind of my motto with Everything Delish.
Mhm. And why call it Everything Delish, by the way? I mean, obviously it's a good name for food. I mean, you want everything to be delish.
Honestly, I have no idea what I was thinking when I started the account. I will tell you one thing. I knew that I wanted to have the everything aspect on there because I want to be
Mm.
able to incorporate so many different, aspects in my life. And honestly, thank goodness I put that everything delish in there because, yes, I it has a very foodie title, but I'm able to also like talk about, like I mentioned before, other very, other things in my life, work with other non-food focused brands, things like that. But I wish I had a better reason. I honestly don't know why I did it, but I'm happy I did.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think when people look at your pages, they get an idea right away of just the extent of what value they're going to get in their
Sure.
lives. They're going to get
And I've
tons
been
of
in
value.
like this
Um,
constant battle with Instagram and speaking to my contact there, being like, should I switch my handle over to Jamie Milne? Like, I think I need to do it. And they're like, no. They're like, you have this brand awareness where you are everything delish. And that's how it's true. Like that's really just how I'm branded. And so, I know people who have made the handle switch and it's either worked in their favor or it hasn't. And so, like I mentioned, like if your followers, they can be upset with that and they can unfollow, which obviously is going to be okay. But I'm not ready. I don't know. I don't think I'm too attached to the name. I don't think I can get rid of it.
have you ever put out a recipe and that you've kind of got that response of like the unfollow? They were just so upset at this recipe you like put out there. Or, like, is that something you've ever
Okay,
had to deal
so
with?
like I'm gonna like knock on wood somewhere that I haven't yet, but there has been, people have been like, oh, I work so quickly that I always try and, proofread everything I do. But I once, many, many years ago, put a tablespoon of chili flakes instead of a half a teaspoon. And I didn't realize until someone
Mm.
made the recipe and they're like, that was the spiciest dish of my life and I had to throw it out. And I was
Oh man.
mortified. So now I triple check everything before it goes out. Um, Honestly, when it comes to food, people are pretty kind. I think the number one thing that
That's
I'm
good.
critiqued about is how I say pasta. People don't like it, but how we pronounce it here in Canada. And like honestly, people have said most things about that, but I've used those comments as honestly my hooks in my videos. So I'd start off my video being like, pasta is my favorite food. And then that video would go viral and they'd be like, the way you say pasta is terrible. And I'm like, well, you're just helping my engagement. So this is amazing.
So it's become a positive.
Exactly. We use those hateful comments as our inspiration for our videos and voiceover.
That's funny.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. So is it like mostly still edited by you, like all this
Everything.
stuff?
I'm a
And
control freak.
Wow. And you find that that's the best way to do it?
Because I'm filming, I know exactly where to cut something. So I can have 2 hours of content from a recipe video, even though the recipe takes 30 minutes. By the time I'm like moving the camera around and this and that, like I have upwards of 2 hours of content sometimes to edit down, but I can edit it down to 30 seconds or a minute in probably 30 minutes. I think that if I were to give it to someone else who wasn't there for the filming process, I don't think they would be able to do it as quickly, but I don't know. I haven't given it a try, but I do have to say that, and this is just a little tidbit because people are going to be like, why are you doing everything yourself? But the best piece of advice that I got when I started this out 12 years ago was from a mentor of mine. And she said to me, the only way to grow is to relinquish over control and money. And as a control freak, that's super difficult to do. So I do outsource other areas of Everything Delish, but there's some things that I need to keep to myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've talked to a bunch of different creators that have had some success, and I've actually heard more often than not that they still edit themselves because they're like, I just understand what I create much better, and they don't mind doing the editing themselves. They like it. It's part
I love
of the
it.
art.
Honestly, it's like watching your Instagram story over and over again. Do you ever do that?
Not too often, but
Okay,
sometimes.
you definitely do it sometimes because we all do. When you are posting something or like, re-listen to a podcast that you're really proud of, right? When you're so proud of your content and you're putting something out there for so many people to see, like you know it better than anyone else would.
Mm-hmm. So, Jimmy, what are your goals right now? What is your big picture vision with Everything Delish, all that you're doing? Where do you see the next 5 to 10 years taking?
It's a really good question. As you can tell, I love to speak. I love hosting. I love inspiring other people. I want to bring the Everything Delish brand into millions of homes, as many homes as possible. And I just genuinely want to be that person that people can look to for motivation in their life in so many different ways. I love creating content. I love working with brands and really kind of pushing the boundaries and really getting innovative and, creating those really amazing concepts that are starting from like beginning to end. But for me, I mean, the dream would be book, product, maybe like a digital show, something like that. I don't need to be cooking on the show, but I'm more than happy to be a judge or host. But I just want to be able to help as many people as possible and inspire so many people to just get into the kitchen. It's been some of my most inspiring and rewarding messages when I get ones like that. And that's like honestly what keeps me going.
That's awesome. Well, that was all the questions that I had. I appreciate taking the time and doing this. I think you're on the trajectory to get to all the stuff you just mentioned, which is exciting. And you built up an amazing platform and, brought a lot of new ideas for great tasting recipes to the forefront, which I think is really great. People are always looking for new recipes all the time. There's never no demand in that category. It's a really interesting space. So I'm excited to see what comes next. And thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.